to another edition of Football Friday on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. I'm Nick Morgasen, that's Zain Bando, Ben Kruse, Nick DiMartino. Back for another edition, Conference Championship Round, presented by Wolf Spreads. And if you haven't been following us for the most of the part of the season, we've been playing on Wolf Spreads. If you like getting involved in the action while rooting for your favorite team, have you ever had a friendly debate on who can pick more games correctly? Does all this talk about parlays, lines, and overs and unders make your head spin? Well, it has been for me the last week. And you want to learn more about this sports betting hoopla? Gamble with us and come check out Wolf Spreads. We're running a sports betting competition completely free on the Wolf Spreads app. Here's how it works. Everybody gets $2,000 fantasy dollars. That's fake money to bet on the NFL games, with whoever can profit most with their 2K bankroll wins. And if you're not an NFL fan, don't worry. Wolf Spreads has competitions available for the NBA, MLB, NHL, and college football and basketball. Put fantasy dollars on the over-under, the money line, or the spreads, competing for bragging rights with your fellow players while having additional fun watching sports and not risk losing your house in the process. Wolf Spreads sports betting for friends who love the action. Now, I looked at our records for this past week. We all did pretty good on the win-loss point of view. Zan and I went 4-0 on the win-loss front. Tom, Nick D, and Ben all went 3-1. Zan had the most points with 10 points. I had 7 points. Tom and Nick D had 4, and Ben had 2. So we were all up there in the lines. Very interesting. A lot of our obvious picks did not really hit. But what did you guys think of the conference round?
Oh, it was good. Obviously we had pretty much 4 games that went right down to the wire. You look at the Bucs-Lions game, you had kind of 2 quarterbacks that, played hard. Baker Mayfield obviously had that game-sealing interception at the end to obviously come up a little bit short. Obviously, that was a game we did on the live stream, which was a really good game. The Chiefs-Bills game, obviously, another classic like we've been seeing the last couple of years with them. And obviously, the Tyler Bass missed field goal at the end was the difference, but Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, obviously, both played excellent. There's just the Bills obviously had some critical mistakes at critical times for them to lose that game. And then the Niners-Packers game, I thought that the Packers really, for three and a half quarters, had a lot of that game in hand. But they just made some critical mistakes, and you just can't do that against the Niners team, especially letting them hang around. It's really a lot of good games. Obviously, the Ravens-Texans game, the Ravens really pretty much had them from the start, but the Texans really can't hang their head because a lot of people didn't expect them to get this far, and they have their future quarterback in C.J. Stroud. So despite some of the teams that lost this weekend, teams like the Packers, teams like the Texans, some younger teams, like they can't be too mad because obviously they played better teams, but they have their quarterbacks for the future. So really good stuff this past weekend, and can't wait for Championship Sunday.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud looked great. I mean, it was just they ran into a buzzsaw, obviously, in the Ravens. The Packers, I said it last week, I got to give Jordan Love some credit because he played way better than I thought he was going to coming into the playoffs, beating the Cowboys, then making the competition with the Niners. Like you said, they played about 3 3.75 quarters before not finishing that game off. But I don't know. We'll see what happens this time around. Zan, Nick D, what did you think about the past rounds games?
Yeah, I mean, I thought 3 out of the 4 games were super exciting. Obviously, referring to Chiefs, Bills, Detroit, Tampa Bay, and then of course San Francisco and the Packers. And this is really what the NFL is all about. This is the time of year where a team has to be clutch, and if they aren't clutch, it's the difference between their season moving on to the next week or going home disappointed. And as Ben alluded to, I don't think any of these losers should be disappointed because they all were super competitive, even Houston for about a half. And, I think it just goes to show that, the newer generation that the NFL is kind of experiencing. You're getting these super fun teams, who kind of coming in that have, a different variety of style, and you love to see it. Some people like the run first quarterback with Lamar Jackson. Some people like hard hitting physical defense in Detroit, and some people like old school smash mouth football, which very Well, it seems like that's exactly what Kansas City is doing. So I think the 4 teams that are left definitely deserve to be there, and it should be a phenomenal championship Sunday that no matter who ends up playing in the Super Bowl in Vegas in a couple weeks, I think people are going to be excited. However, I will say I think there's one matchup that America wants to see, and there's also the matchup that Vegas is probably hoping occurs. So it'll be interesting to see who we have this week. There's a lot of parity, a lot of excitement. It should be an absolute blast, and I'm just happy to be here. Absolutely.
Nick D, what did you think?
Well, I think the Ravens-Texans game really changed on a dime. I had the Texans covering the spread. I don't remember what it was. It was
9.5.
Okay, it was 9. I knew it was something big. And actually at halftime, I hedged it and took the Ravens minus 6.5. And I am so glad I did that because of that, I only lost 50 cents on the game.
That's good.
Yeah, I really thought that game just changed pretty drastically. I thought the Ravens Niners. I had the pack. I'm sorry, Ravens Packers. I had that game. I'm sorry, Niners
Ravens
Packers.
Yeah.
In the Niners Packers game, I had the Packers. So I was very happy about that. I think Jordan Love ended up proving a lot of people wrong. Now, obviously, that game was rainy and all that, and it was Brock Purdy played a pretty bad game. No Deebo Samuel, all that. I think the Lions-Bucks game, the underrated moment, I think, was when Todd Bowles didn't call a timeout with a minute and a half left.
That was bizarre.
That was weird. He could have easily called the timeout and forced the Lions to kick a field goal. And if they miss it, I mean, anything could happen on a field goal. There's no guarantee he's making that kick. It is possible that he misses the kick and the Bucks can go down the field. And,
also, think about field position if the kick is missed. Also,
right, exactly. The Bucks could have potentially gone down the field and tied up the game.
I mean, you would have forced a punt at least, even if they didn't kick the field goal. But
right.
But yeah, I don't understand. You have plenty of time to call a timeout there. That's Todd Bowles at his finest as being a head coach of a team.
Todd Bowles, I know.
The Todd Bowles special.
It's unlikely it would have worked, but I mean, it's worth a try.
We've seen wacky things happen in the playoffs before.
Absolutely.
It was worth a try. I don't know why he didn't even attempt to do it.
Go ask Zain in Chicago what happened with their kicker in a weird situation.
And I mean, obviously,
yeah,
the Bills,
no kidding.
Bills Chiefs was another one that I was hoping to go 3-1, but I ended up going 2-2. So I'm 50% in the playoffs. I was hoping the Bills would be able to cover the 2.5. I could. It's very predictable, or at least typical of this to happen to the Bills, going down in a very dramatic fashion like this. It's like how on sitcoms, everything always ends up happening to the main characters.
Yeah, it's like the reverse of everything.
Like the Bills are the main character of a sitcom.
Well, what would Josh Allen
they are
be?
The NFL, and the Chiefs are like a hero in a superhero movie.
Literally,
that's basically how these teams are. It seems like.
But here's what I don't get about the Bills. They make it. They win games. They're a great regular season team. That's what the Bills are.
They're an if there was a regular season Super Bowl champion, they would win it.
No, that's right. And also, there's no excuse.
I don't know if I would say if there's a regular. I mean, did we miss the whole first half of the season this year?
No,
how bad they were in the regular season.
You're right, but I meant generally they're a good regular season team.
I want to talk about regular season, guys. Miami Dolphins. They've been a team that you feel like.
Oh God! Don't even start with the Miami Dolphins.
I think those teams were great regular season teams. I mean, the truth is, the best regular season team was the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
And they better win. They're probably under the most pressure this weekend, which we'll get to.
Yeah,
but
and right. I mean, they're under the most pressure. But I mean, the Bills. Everybody is like really wants to pile on Josh Allen. Let's not forget, Stephon Diggs did jack shit that game.
It's true.
Diggs had fewer receiving yards than Latavius Murray, who was a running back.
Yeah, that was
like
Stephon
Latavius
Diggs
Murray
disappeared.
And he had the
Murray
most
had more receiving yards than Stephon Diggs, who is their number one receiver. If I was a Bills fan, I would be losing it. Bills fans are probably lighting themselves on fire right now.
They already
they're
are
angry,
with
not
tables.
because they're happy.
They already are. They were doing it before the game.
Yeah, you let yourself on fire when you're happy and when you're pissed off.
Just don't put kerosene in it; you might explode.
I'm just gonna say it. I think that the Bills are the most cursed franchise in all professional football.
I don't know if I go that far, but I don't know.
I also wanted to say James Cook also had a terrible game. Josh Allen led the team in rushing. Here's the thing. You're not going to win games, especially in the playoffs, if your quarterback leads the team in rushing.
No, absolutely not.
One or two running backs that you can rely on. They couldn't rely on any running backs. Most of their rush yards were coming mostly from, or at least their lead rusher was Allen. And Josh Allen, when he ran, it was like a scramble. Like it wasn't like design runs. Like he was running when he had no other option.
I would hedge on that partially, that when they needed, like on a 3rd and 5 sometimes, or a 3rd and 6, he would just take off and get the yardage. That's what he does best. You're right. Most of it is a scramble, but they can't win that way. Right. They can't win that way. Like everyone said, oh, he had that 45-yard run or whatever, like I think in the first half, but that's not normal. That's not a normal thing. For one, you don't want your quarterback doing that because that's how he gets hurt. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he's coming up on 65 or 70% of the cap next season. Like it's a big number. And their GM Bean came out and said, like, you're going to see some rookies next year, younger guys. So I'm going to tell you right now, I think they're going to take a step back already just because of that.
I don't know. I mean, but I'll also have to say, like everybody's piling on Allen, but also that pass to that really long pass, Stephon Diggs has to catch that. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're talking about the one to the end zone?
No, the one near the end zone.
It was like their second to last drive or something. He threw like a 50, 60-yard bomb on the right-hand sideline.
There was that, and then they also missed him on a down route where they could have got the first down.
Yeah.
When they were driving for the winning point, or not for the win, for the tie. They were going for the tie. They missed Diggs on a wide open drop route right in front. Yeah. So I don't know what Josh Allen was looking at there.
Yeah. I mean, certainly Josh Allen has made some mistakes. I'm just saying that one particular pass.
That's not on him.
Stephon Diggs has to catch that. That's as good of a throw as you can make. Now, if it was like the 5th receiver on the team, I would say, all right, I'm not going to get too mad at you for it. But if you're Stephon Diggs and you're supposed to be the star of the team, you have to make that play.
Catch the freaking football. You get paid to catch it.
Be useful. Do something. Like
and then he obviously like has the stuff off the field, like his the social media stuff in the past. It's like it's kind of his antics and stuff like that. People think like, oh, he's going to crash out. Like you essentially just did not show up. If you're the number one receiver, you got to be like it. And he just did not show it like that.
Was it the season before where he basically stormed out of the locker room after the playoff game? I think that was him, right?
So.
Yeah, after he got mad at Josh Allen and then left the locker room and they had to call him to come back to the locker room because he left the stadium.
Yeah. And also like the thing with Allen is that he had to like really be extra aggressive, especially towards the end of the game, where it's like, you know what? Sometimes you need a quarterback who is most of the best quarterbacks throw a lot of interceptions.
It's true.
Not always, but it's sort of like how the best hitters in baseball strike out a lot. It's the same type of thing with quarterbacks. Like they're going to throw interceptions often. It's not I'm not going to hold that against him as much. I mean, you don't want it to happen in big spots, obviously, but I really don't think Josh Allen is to blame to the degree that he's being blamed. I'm not saying that he hasn't been. He's not to blame at all. Now, obviously, he's not people would compare it to Patrick Mahomes. I don't think anybody's arguing he's as good as Patrick Mahomes. I don't. I don't think
agree.
anybody's really making that. I don't think anybody's really making that claim.
No one's making that claim, but one he's got to win a Super Bowl. Like that. That's the big thing.
And
but
that's not the only reason I feel that way. It's just that he's not as good as Patrick Mahomes, but he's probably the second best young quarterback.
Well, I would say Patrick Mahomes does more with nothing than anybody in the NFL.
Right.
Also,
like Patrick Mahomes could become the best quarterback ever.
That I can see that.
Chance. And I'm a Brady fan, obviously.
But like he's already in the running for that. So I mean, it's not really a fair comparison necessarily.
Oh, all right. So let's move around a little. Obviously, we only have 2 games to pick, but before we get to the games, the coaching carousel is going. You know how they have the ponies on the carousel at the Brooklyn, at the amusement park in Brooklyn? Like, we're all just going to get on the Cyclone and we're just going to ride it because the carousels have just been going. Yeah. So the first one, now I'm bringing this one up first because Atlanta Falcons hire Raheem Morris instead of Bill Belichick. Now, the speculation is out there that Bill Belichick didn't really want this job with the Falcons. Would you say, Ben? That's what we're kind of hearing now.
I don't know if he didn't want it. I just think that the more and more that I saw, like with more coaches, like as the Falcons gone on with like David Shaw, I think a little bit, Jim Harbaugh, Mike Vrabel, I'm like, he's just not the clear favorite anymore. And Bill Belichick already with his overall suitors, kind of similar with Brady after he left New England, there's not going to be a lot of teams that's going to want Bill because he's an older coach. And obviously this is a new era of football. So a lot of people want to get younger coaches. And ever since that Dallas situation happened with McCarthy coming back, there really wasn't a lot of other options out there. So this was pretty much like the only option if there was any other option specifically out there. And they took Raheem Morris, who I guess is fine, but like you've got one of the greatest coaches ever. And it's like, apparently he wanted to coach like a younger team that had some upside. This is going to be a perfect team for it. They've been 7-9 the last 3-4 seasons. So like we're talking off the air, Nick, and everybody else here, that he Bills might wait until like a year specifically, and then maybe come back for the following year. Because I don't think personally that he's done. I really don't. I think that he still wants to get that show record, that wins record, which I think's 14 right now. So that's pretty much what I thought. But yeah, when I saw this today, I'm just like, I don't know how much he's gonna have for another chance for another suitor out there for this upcoming season, because this was really it. So it's what it is.
Nick D, what do you think?
Okay, so to me, it's really, I never thought that Raheem Morris would get hired over Bill Belichick. That feels like bizarro world. Well, to me, it seems very clear that a few things happened. One, Bill Belichick demanded too much money. Mm-hmm. And 2, Bill Belichick probably demanded like GM control.
Oh yeah,
of the team, and they didn't want to give him that. I think this move would make a lot more sense because that's the only way it would make any sense at all that they would make this move. I mean, it would make more sense honestly if Raheem Morris was an offensive-minded head coach, and they wanted an offensive because. Teams tend to want offensive-minded head coaches more than defensive-minded head coaches nowadays because it's more of an offensive game, especially when you're a young quarterback team like the Falcons. So I think to me, it's pretty clear that Bill Belichick demanded things that the Falcons weren't willing to give him, and Bill Belichick really just didn't care that much about getting this job. To me, that's what I think probably happened based on this information, especially given that like Raheem Morris is also a defensive-minded head coach. It wasn't like they wanted an offensive guy.
Right.
That's got to be the reason that this happened. And Bill Belichick really didn't need them.
Well, and this goes back to what I told Ben the other day, and I told everybody, I think last week. The Falcons put out on their social media that they were interviewing Bill Belichick. I'm sorry. No one is choosing to interview Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick will go and take interviews to be the head coach.
But
And
do you
if
think
he
it's
fits,
possible that he didn't want the job?
yeah,
I think there's a
totally.
chance. I really
I
do.
do, yeah. I think it's possible. Yeah.
Because like Nick, like you mentioned, like if they didn't give him fully the whole GM power, because he was obviously the GM the last couple years in New England, and
Well,
you
he
know a lot
lost
of
it the
people were,
last 2 years, didn't he? In New England.
no, he was still essentially considered the GM. He
Well,
was
they took the
essentially,
title away, though.
yeah,
I think.
but he essentially still had the duties. That's obviously why that we had to move on, because I still think that Bill can coach, but his overall scouting for a lot of the positions was not working, and he didn't have to be a perfect GM duty type of guy when he had Brady around, because he was able to take a lot of what Bill's deficiencies were.
Well, that's the problem. Like Bill is a veterans guy. You have Tom Brady for 20 years, you're going to win.
Yeah. Mhm.
And we all see what happened with Mac Jones. That was a fucking disaster with
Yeah.
the Patriots. Like it just
That
did
was a
not
craft
work
pick
out.
too.
And it was
That
a craft
wasn't
pick.
Bill's. Yeah.
But still,
So,
he doesn't work well with younger players. That's not his game. And that's
Mhm.
why I was surprised when the Falcons came up as even a team, because they're a much younger team than he's used
that's
to being
true.
with. And
Yeah.
the other thing, and this is going to sound harsh, I think the game is partially passed Bill Belichick by a little bit.
Oh, I'm not disputing that. Like I mentioned,
And-
like there's not a lot of coaches that there's not a lot of teams that essentially want older coaches at this point in time. That's not a knock on Bill Belichick, but I don't think a lot of teams want to essentially go into the old modern day football. This is not the
Right.
same that it once was.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Zan, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, I just think it's a sign of where the Atlanta Falcons are at and where Bill Belichick is at. He probably didn't think that he could fix that franchise. They've been essentially irrelevant their whole history, and the Falcons probably couldn't afford what he was asking for, and that's more than likely why the relationship didn't work out. And I'm not saying Atlanta's stuck with Raheem Morris. I think he'll do a halfway decent job, knowing that he knows the NFC South pretty well, given his playing days and whatnot. But I'm sure if you're a Falcons fan, it's like, really, we can't get anything right at this point. So this is just another stain in the disappointing history that is the Atlanta Falcons franchise, who, by the way, has still yet to win a Super Bowl. So,
Well, they have the one stain on their resume, 28-3.
Right.
But
I was thinking about this too. Maybe Bill, during his interviews, maybe brought some of the past, Super Bowl memories up, and then they're probably like, "Yeah, now we're done."
we don't need that jinx anymore. But
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
we'll move around. There's
So-
two other ones. So we had the Carolina Panthers hiring Bucks Dave Canales as head
Canales.
coach.
Mhm.
I don't know what to think about the Panthers right now. The Panthers are such a wild card that they pretty much have to break it all down again and build it back up. Is there really anything that the Panthers can do right in this situation? Because I don't think so.
Well, I will say this, right? Because Frank Reich, obviously, I thought that he might have been able to help Bryce Young, as a number one overall pick. But if you're going to go essentially start over, at least start everything over specifically. At least younger coach, younger quarterback. I think obviously just a better match. And Canales obviously a lot younger than Frank Reich was. Not knock on Frank Reich, but I think that you saw what happened. I mean, Baker's obviously not that old, but if you're able to kind of maybe help out Bryce Young in terms of his development with a younger coach, it might just be like a better fit. I don't know.
Zan?
yeah, I mean, I think that Canales is definitely a young offensive mind in this league that has a lot of very, very good head coaching capabilities, and I'm sure that him pairing with Bryce Young, who's going to be entering his second year, who didn't really have a full identity, he played halfway decent in some of the games despite several losses from Carolina. I think it could be a match made in heaven, considering that these two don't know each other. They're going to work together for the first time, and given where they are in their stages of their careers, respectively as head coach and as second year quarterback out of Alabama, I think that there's a lot of positives, and it could end up being a good match, just given that they're both kind of younger, given where they're at. So it might work. It'll be like a 3 to 4 year rebuild, though. It's not gonna happen right away. But from year 1 to year 2 of the Canales Bryce Young marriage, if you will. There's going to be some improvements. So maybe this is a 5 or 6 win team next year, and maybe you're starting to talk about sneaking into wild card berth for the for the 25-26 season. But you never know.
Nick D, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they hired him because he was able to get the most out of Baker Mayfield this year.
Exactly.
I think that's really what convinced them to do it. I don't know how much of that had to do with the coordinator. And also Bryce Young is a young quarterback, so they want a young offensive-minded head coach that has shown some sort of ability. It could be true that Bryce Young just isn't that good. That's also possible. But I don't know. I mean, the truth is it can't get that much worse for the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
Given that he's a young head coach, it's not like I can't imagine they're paying him all that much money compared to more experienced head coaches. It really can't get much worse from here for the Panthers, is really what I'm saying.
I think the
Agreed.
Panthers have to get a number one receiver too. You know that they talked about that last year throughout the season.
That
There's
too,
a guy
yeah.
like Jerry Jeudy and stuff like that. If they get somebody for Bryce Young for like a quarterback receiver combo, then I think that's a better way to kind of gauge in terms of if he's going to be all that or not.
But at the
That's
same
different.
time, if Bryce Young just stinks, you could have all the number one receivers in the world. It's not going to matter.
True.
It's not going to
Yeah,
matter.
yeah.
Like
Mhm.
Bryce Young looked awful this first season.
Mhm.
Now,
But number
obviously,
one receivers are completely dependent on their quarterbacks.
absolutely, and that's the problem. Like Carolina, I think that I saw a stat that they trailed every fourth quarter or something this year. Like they never led in the fourth quarter. Like
That's crazy.
if you can't even have a lead in the fourth quarter, how do you expect your quarterback to be confident to win games? Like you just can't.
And by the way,
And
I think Frank Reich probably got a raw deal.
He's getting paid, so I don't think he's
That's true.
He's gonna get paid all the way to the bank to sit at home.
That's true. That's true.
So actually,
guess
he's
it
got
isn't
2
just me
contract
too,
deals. Remember that because
but-
he got fired twice.
Yeah.
Bryce Young looked very like. It's not like I don't know if it's not on him, but like I felt like he was like very undersized, like in terms of just last year in the NFL. Like I just felt like he was just scrambling a lot. He wasn't kind of feeling his overall pocket presence. He was just getting sacked a lot, and just his confidence a lot of the times was just very shot. I just think that there wasn't a lot specifically around him. The coaching, his first year was just a mess.
Agreed. And there's obviously other moves. The last one I want to look at, though, is with the Eagles, because the Eagles have been the center of attention over the last week or so. Vic Fangio to become the Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator after the mess that they had. They fired Ben Johnson on the OC side. They fired Patricia. It was about damn time. This team's a mess. They kept Nick Sirianni. Does this move help them? Is he too old-fashioned? Because that's really what Vic Fangio is. Zan, where do you see this falling?
I think the game has passed him by. He's not the same D coordinator he was 7 years ago when he was earning a Super Bowl ring in Denver. I'm just going to put it to you straight. I think this was a mistake by the Eagles, and I think this is going to set their defense back for at least the next 2 years, if not longer.
Nick D.
I think it's a fine move. I don't know how. I don't think it'll affect the defense that much. I mean, look, the Eagles just had a really terrible collapse, and they really need to make sure that slump does not continue to the start of next season. But like the thing is, I think the problem was probably more the offense than it was the defense. It looked like. I mean, the defense too a little bit, but I think it was the offense more. But I don't know. I suppose making changes can't hurt too much.
We'll see. Ben, what do you think?
Well, I mean, they brought Vic Fangio in, to replace Matt Patricia, which I think for them specifically, it's like it couldn't be any worse, right? So they took in somebody that had some experience. I do agree with Zan. I don't know if this was my favorite specific move because I think that the game might be past him specifically, but I do think they were trying to just go out and just trying to find a guy that's had the experience in the past. I mean, Dan Quinn might have been a potential candidate for me, but I just think that there's not a lot defensive coordinators right now to me out there that are just like, yeah, that's the guy. So I think that when Vic Fangio was mutually parted ways with the Dolphins, I think that the Eagles were like, "Yep, we're going to take him on," and I think that Sirianni essentially just wanted to get some guys, in or out so he can keep his job around.
I mean, I'm going to go a hot take, and then we're going to go in to start picking the games. In my opinion, Nick Sirianni should have been fired as the coach of the Eagles. And the reason I say that is because the locker room was dysfunctional for the last 8 games as they went 1-7 down the stretch.
He's a very cocky type of coach. Like I remember, like after they beat the Chiefs, he was just that locker room. Of course, he was like heckling at the fans, going back, and like after that happened, like essentially everything went down the drain. They brought in Matt Patricia, which I had no idea why they brought him in. They gave up that last minute drive to Drew Lock, who essentially was barely starting a lot of the year. They had one loss, obviously the Giants. They almost had 2. They lost to a team that was tanking in the Cardinals. Their second half essentially, whatever could have gone wrong, essentially went wrong.
Right. So. I don't get how you keep Sirianni after what happened though, going 1-7 in the last 8 games and getting completely smoked by the Bucs in that game. Did anyone else laugh at the way the Eagles played against the Bucs? Because I certainly did.
I was just more I should have picked the Bucs to win in our Football Friday. Like I was like just kicking myself watching that game. I'm like, man.
Same here.
But all right.
But something I want to counter you on in regards to your opinion that Nick Sirianni should have been fired. I disagree with you, considering that they were just in the Super Bowl a year ago. I don't think you can can someone that has gone to football's biggest game and lose in a heartbreaker so quickly. In my opinion,
I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised one way or the other the way the decision had gone, but we'll leave that one there. All right, let's pick some games.
Yeah.
So we'll start with the Chiefs at the Ravens. The early game. The Ravens are a -4 favorite. Obviously, this is the matchup that everybody wanted. It's Mahomes versus Lamar. Obviously, the Ravens have probably been the best team in the NFL, even though the Niners might want to have a discussion with the Ravens on that front. But home game for the Ravens -4. Ben, if you want to go first, you can.
Yeah, so obviously this is the second game on the road for the Chiefs in the playoffs. So of course, I think that they're kind of embracing how they played last week, and they're going to a really tough environment like they were last week. You obviously have Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. Mahomes has had Lamar Jackson's number, at least the last couple of years, but this is a year I think that Lamar's ready to prove himself, and they're at home. They're getting Mark Andrews back officially this week. They didn't have him last week, but Isaiah Likely's been balling for them. They're starting tight end. They've been using their running game to their ability. Remember, guys, it was 10-10 in the first half last week. And essentially they made adjustments on that Texans defense, and they pretty much completely ran them out the building in that second half. So the Ravens just feel like a team of destiny right now. I do think the Chiefs, if they are playing ahead, I think that they have a good chance to win this one. But I'm going to have the Ravens here to cover. It's kind of a smaller line than I thought. Maybe that half a point possibly could have been convincing. But I'm going to have the Ravens to cover here. But it's going to be a really close game. I can't wait for this one.
All right, so you're on the cover. Zan, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you alluded to in your open for this game, this is the matchup that America wanted to see. These are the 2 probably most popular quarterbacks out of the 4 quarterbacks that we have left. So this is the de facto AFC Super Bowl, well, if you will, kind of the precursor to the actual Super Bowl. So hopefully it lives up to the hype. But to me, I just feel like this is the Ravens' year. They've been playing amazing football the entire season, and I think if Kansas City has a deficit, even if it's a little bit, I think playing in that environment, playing in that what presumably should be a sold-out M&T Bank Stadium, the Ravens haven't been to the Super Bowl in a decade. All signs just point to the Ravens playing really well and winning the games. Well, give me the Ravens to win this one by a final score of 34-28. I think it's an absolute thriller. I think Mahomes goes 75 yards with 2 minutes to go, or attempts to on the final drive, and throws it is going to be the game-losing interception because Baltimore would have just scored to go ahead a few minutes before that. So give me the Ravens defense to stifle the Chiefs, and that the Ravens will win by at least 6 and advance to the Super Bowl in Vegas. So give me the Ravens to cover.
All right, Nick, what you got?
I really like the Chiefs to cover, not to win outright, but to cover. There's a few things. The Ravens, it would be the Ravens very often choke in the playoffs a little bit. So it wouldn't exactly be surprising if the Ravens don't really play as well as we expect them to. Like the only reason I expect the Ravens to win outright is because they're at home. The Chiefs are a very good playoff team, and when they do lose these games, they don't lose by a lot. They rarely. When do they lose in the playoffs by more than 3 points? It almost never happens.
No, it doesn't. You're right. You're exactly right.
The Ravens. I'm sorry. The Chiefs have one of the harder things to do against the Ravens is run. The Chiefs can run the ball better than most teams can, and also Andy Reid is like in the play. Andy Reid, he can prepare for this game very well. I trust him to prepare. I'm not saying Harbaugh is a bad coach or anything, but I think he could do a better job preparing for this game. And the Chiefs, they always have some trick up their sleeves in really big plays. And like, I really think the Chiefs are not much worse than are not going to be that much worse. And you really just can't expect them to lose by a lot. Like the Chiefs are not going to get blown out. And I'm not saying 3 points is a blowout, but I mean, just within a field goal, that's it. Within 3 points. That's it. It's so because it's bigger than a field goal, I have to go with the Chiefs on this.
All right. So it comes down to me.
And you also have to remember with the Bills, they couldn't run the ball. We're mentioning all the stuff with the Bills that went wrong. Like they had a lot of injuries on defense. Gabe Davis was out, who's probably their number 2 receiver. James Cook couldn't run the ball. Stephon Diggs was horrible. Josh Allen was throwing interceptions. Like if you look at the Bills and they barely won that game, the Bills had so much going wrong, and that's just not going to be the issue with the Chiefs at all. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco was probably going to be able to run. Patrick Mahomes is not going to throw many interceptions. And like all of those things that went wrong with the Bills, particularly running the ball, the Chiefs are going to be able to do. So I think the Chiefs can at least be able. The Chiefs can at least, or at least going to be. I think the Chiefs are at least going to be able to like keep it close.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the argument on both sides. I mean, the way I looked at the Chiefs last week against the Bills, they tried to throw that game away last week quite a few times. I mean, you had the very close call on the drop by what was it? Hartman, who was rolling around on the ground and got a touchback through the back of the end zone. Former Jet, who never played it down, and ended up back with the Chiefs. By the way, what a disgrace! He gets more attention for all the terrible things that he's done for them. What did he have? Like 2 interceptions and 2 takeaways, and like it was insane numbers. He had like -1 yard, which was kind of funny too. But I like the Ravens here. Lamar is probably going to be the MVP this year. I think he's the runaway MVP. I don't think anyone is close. The pressure is on them to win because they have not been to the Super Bowl in a long time. So I think they're going to come out a little bit nerved at first. Patrick Mahomes has been here many times. Lamar, not so much. So I think it'll be close. I was contemplating taking the Chiefs +4, but the Chiefs' offense is a question mark. Besides their running game. Their running game with Pacheco and Hilaire. By the Hilaire looked like disgustingly good last week. Like that's the only way I can really think of it. Like he was doing high knees and running all over the field. Like he was running faster than anybody out there. But I just think the Ravens offense and the defense is going to be too much for the Chiefs because Mahomes, the receivers are just not doing the job. He doesn't have a Tyreek Hill like he did back in the day to lean on. So it's a lot more pressure. So I'm taking the Ravens to cover in this. And obviously, I think we're going to see them back in the Super Bowl. All right. second and final game, the late game, Lions at the 49ers down in the Bay. The Niners are a 7-point favorite. Zan, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, Detroit has obviously been the best story in the NFL this year. Obviously, Dan Campbell has done a tremendous job for a franchise that has not had much success since the mid to late 1850s. So it's good to see Detroit, being in this position. These are two classic old school franchises too. But to me, I just think San Francisco's slightly better. Brock Purdy's playing out of his mind. When that offense is 100% and that offense can go, they're a very difficult team to stop. And I think you had alluded to this before we got on the air a little bit ago, that if Debo Samuel is even at 50%, I think San Francisco is still going to be okay. So I actually love the 49ers here just because they have the home field advantage, and they're not the ones traveling across country across a couple different time zones. Detroit is, and I think with all those factors in place, I think Detroit gives a valiant effort. I actually think they'll be leading at halftime, but they'll find a way to lose the lead, and then after they lose the lead, they'll never gain it back. So I love the 49ers to cover with a touchdown, and I'm not sure if we're still doing these, but I'm just going to assume we are. I am taking the 49ers to win cover, and this is also my lock between the two games.
Yeah, that makes the most sense, in my opinion. So you have a Niners-Ravens Super Bowl, according to that. So
that's correct.
All right, so your Super Bowl matchups on the board. Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, I like the Niners here to fully cover. I was debating potentially having the Lions take the points, but Debo's playing. I would take him at 50% in that offense, then not. So yeah, I think that with the way that the Niners have been playing at home, I think they'll be able to cover this. And the Lions guys throughout the year, I don't think have been a great away team. They've been more of a better home team. And Jared Goff on the road kind of scares me. So I think that it's going to be close. But I feel like Jared Goff has played a lot better at home than he's been on the road. So yeah, give me the Niners here to cover. And I also have Niners and Ravens Super Bowl.
Just one small additional nugget. If this game was reversed and the game was at Ford Field, I would have taken a split. I would have taken the 49ers to win, but I would have taken Detroit to cover. But if you take the dome out of it, I think it's going to be difficult.
All right, I'll go next on this one. I like the Niners. I just think the Niners offense is better. The question marks all season have been on Brock Purdy. Can Brock Purdy play up to potential? Now, the media was asking him a ton of questions. Oh, remember you got hurt in this game last year or before this game last year. And I don't think mentally he's strong. It's a matter of if the team and the pieces around him are healthy. Like I was saying to Zan and the guys beforehand, as long as Debo is 50 or 60%, they could run those run packages. They could spread out the receivers more. Having Debo on the field makes McCaffrey even better, even though McCaffrey doesn't need any more help to begin with. And McCaffrey, in my opinion, should be up there for MVP votes, but we all know that's not going to happen. But I just think the Niners are stronger offensively than the Lions can really show defensively. And I agree with Ben, Goff on the road is a little bit scary at times. So it's a big number for the playoffs, but we've seen big numbers hit before. I'm taking the Niners to cover. This will be my lock. Niners -7. Go ahead, Nick.
Right. So I like the Lions. I think that 7 points is a lot. I don't think they'll win outright. I think the Niners will probably win outright. But, look, Debo Samuel is not healthy. Brock Purdy has been kind of shaky lately. He hasn't been particularly impressive they haven't had the most the Niners in the playoffs haven't had the most impressive win. Their win was not particularly impressive. And the Lions, I just think they can probably keep it close. They are still a 12-5 team, although they have shown some spots where they lose games by more than one possession. Like they got killed by the Ravens. They lost to the Bears by a lot. And so they have shown during the regular season, they have shown some spots where they were certainly bad. But at the same time, I don't think that it's very likely. Like, I really think they're going to come out for a playoff game. I don't think that they're going to be so flat for a playoff game like they were. And it looks like they have a decent amount of momentum. And look, all I'm saying is I also think that I think ultimately it matters if the Lions offense is good, because their defense is definitely going to give up a lot of points. But the Lions, if they can score a lot of points, I think they can at least keep it close and maybe within a touchdown. So the Niners, I just don't think the Niners will cover this. And if it goes, I'll be even more confident if it goes up to 7.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I mean, I think we all agree the Niners are a better offensive team. That's not the debate. It's a matter of if they're healthy and Brock Purdy could come out and actually play consistent football.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And he hasn't really been all that consistent.
I'll give you Tom's picks also. Now, these were interesting when I looked through them. So he has the Ravens beating the Chiefs, but he has the Chiefs covering +4. But Nick, you had that too. And he has the Niners defeating the Lions, but the Lions covering +7. So interesting picks on that regard. All right, let's get to our Wolf Spreads picks.
Wait,
Also,
before we do that, Nick D, what did you make your lock of the week? What is your lock?
Oh, my lock is the Chiefs.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Oh wow, you're locking the plus spread then?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, interesting.
Okay.
All right, now let's move on to our.
Look, it's two choices. Neither are.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Easy.
No, you're right.
Got a 50% shot.
50-50 chance of everything. All right,
Yeah.
so let's move on to our ETB Conference Championship picks presented by Wolf Spreads. I will start first. I had Ravens -3.5. These are all 500 wagers. So I have Ravens -3.5, Chiefs. Oh, I have the Chiefs over 44.5. Well, the game over 44.5. I have the Niners -7, and I have the Niners game under 51.5. That just seems like a big number. Nick, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Hold on a second. I'm just gonna pull it up right now. So I took the I took the Lions plus. Hold on a second. Okay, so I took the Raven. I took the Chiefs +3.5, the Lions +7, and the over in the Lions Niners game.
So you're taking the over 51.5?
Yeah, the over 51.5.
Wow.
And then the Chiefs and Lions we just explained.
Right. Okay, Zan.
Yeah, so for those of you who need a small update, I'm now up to 4 wins on Wolf Spreads with a total profit of 1,730 fantasy dollars, and that's good enough for first place in the competition. Shout out to Tom for blowing his first place lead last week, which slid me into the number one overall spot. So with further ado, here are my picks, and hopefully we make it another banner week. Starting out, I have the Baltimore Ravens to cover an alternate line of -1.5. I thought it was a little bit too easy at home. That's 250 to win 161. I have the Chiefs Ravens going over 42.5. That's an alternate line buying 2 points there. That's 350 to win 233. I have a huge money line play in the Baltimore Ravens, 500 to win 250. And looking over at the 49ers Lions game, I've got the 49ers spread, an alternate spread of -5, 400 to win 276. And my final pick of the slate, and my final pick until the Super Bowl is the 49ers money line at -300, 500 to win 167. And those are my NFL Conference Championship plays presented by Wolf Spreads.
All right, Ben, finish it out.
Yeah, so I got 3 plays. I got 2 plays from the Lions and Niners game. I have the Niners money line and I have their spread. I have the Niners at -7. And then I have the Chiefs Ravens game. I have the Chiefs total at over 44.5.
Okay, so we made it through all our Wolf Spreads pick. Just a quick reminder, Next week will be off just because there's a week off between the conference round and the Super Bowls, so you won't see us for a week.
Wait, no Pro Bowl football Friday?
Oh God!
Damn it!
Yeah, yes, because I want to make bets on the Pro Bowl.
Go
is that
over
even-
under
is that
for
even out there?
the.
Is that even a thing?
We can't even
think it's
play
like
it on
skills
most spreads if
competition.
we tried. We can't
No, but
even,
I'm
we
saying-
can't even do it.
No, but is that an actual thing you can gamble on, the Pro Bowl?
I think you can.
Oh God!
Wow.
You used to be able to gamble on how long the national anthem's going to be.
You could. Did they stop doing that or no?
I think so.
That's because someone snuck into one
Well,
of the
you know how
practices.
easy it is. Like if you know the person who sings the national anthem.
No,
you
I
could be
wouldn't say
like,
it's that easy. I mean, you could purposely make one note go longer, and that would be the end of the time.
No,
Yeah,
true. Good point. Good
But-
point.
That's why I think they stopped it, because someone like snuck in with a camera and recorded it. Which,
No way.
do you realize how ridiculous that sounds? How much of a degenerate gambler you have to be? You're going to go in and get the national anthem and record and say, "Oh, look, I know how long it is."
That's crazy. I
But,
actually did not know that. That's a wild story.
But yeah, so we'll be off. Just a reminder, we're off next week. We will be back. We will probably do a live stream. We did this the last couple of seasons, so we will live stream the Super Bowl preview show. That's usually on a Saturday, so the Saturday before the Super Bowl. So that's the plan there. Also, we're planning on doing a live stream on Sunday. That's the plan as of right now, to do the 3 p.m. games. So I think the Chiefs Ravens is probably the best game on the radar. So we'll see how many people. I think Ben and Nick, you said you were there and around. I'm
I'll
around,
be there.
and
If we do
so
it.
yeah, I think we are going to do it. That's the plan. So look out for that. We'll give you more information as the weekend comes on that front, but just stay tuned for that. But that'll do it for the end of this week of Football Friday, the conference championship round. For Nick DiMartino, for Ben Kruse, for Zain Bando, I'm Nick Morgasen. Enjoy the conference games in the NFL. I think we all have the same Super Bowl, right? If our predictions go correct, I think we all have the Ravens, Niners.
Yep.
And
I do, yeah.
Zan,
we
that
all do.
matches your color combo you were talking about.
I could write. So for those of you who do not know, sometimes, I don't know if this happens all the time. I know it's happened the last 3 Super Bowls, but whatever logo the NFL puts out, if you read between the lines, you could probably picture the colors of the two teams in it. It's one of the last couple of years with the Rams playing the Bengals, and obviously last year the Eagles playing the Chiefs, and this year when you look closely at the colors, it's purple, red, and gold. If you look above the actual Roman numerals, so we'll see if this logo trend continues.
We'll see. But now, we'll say goodbye. For Nick DiMartino, for Ben Kruse, for Zain Bando, I'm Nick Morgasen. Follow us on social media as well, youtube.com/ETB Network, where you can find all these Football Fridays. You can find Ben, who's now co-hosting Hitting for the Cycle with Ryan Chewy as well. We'll have a show announcement for Zain Bando soon, in a couple weeks.
Absolutely.
So make sure you look into that as well. Obviously, Nick DiMartino, Liam Barwick on Moving the Goalpost. Myself
out
and Tom
tomorrow
Albano
at
on
8.
Empty the Bench. Tomorrow at 8. That's right. And so make sure you follow everything on the network. Also, etbpodcast.com. Find everything on the website. And if you want to listen to this and everything else on the network, you can find it wherever you get your podcast. Whew. Okay. I think that's it. Good night, everybody. We will see you in 2 weeks for our live stream for our Super Bowl coverage. Good night, everybody.
Have a good one.
Take care. See you guys next 2 weeks.